Nowadays, game companies no longer make consoles dedicated to their fan base, but instead, all they care about is making your wallets empty. However, it wasn't always like this. Back in the 90s, game companies were dedicated to their projects, and during that era, Sega was no stranger to the gaming community. But after multiple failed consoles, Sega had to rise back to its glory if it wanted to stay relevant. So before the release of Saturn, they started working on their next big console that would be quote unquote revolutionary. In 1998, a legend will temporarily arise and then be overthrown by the PS2. I am indeed talking about the Sega Dreamcast. Released ahead of its time, praised for innovation, beloved by fans, yet destined for an early grave. What's up everybody, Doomer here, and in today's video, we're diving into the story of the Dreamcast, from its rise to its downfall. To understand the Dreamcast, we need to rewind. Sega had dominated the early 90s thanks to the Genesis and the Mega Drive, while starting the first ever console war against Nintendo. However, by the mid-90s, they stumbled. The Sega Saturn struggled with its poor third-party support, confusing hardware, competition from the PlayStation, and its weird commercials. Sega was on the verge of getting bankrupt. They needed a miracle soon and fast. Lucky for them, in 1998, that miracle arrived. First in Japan, then globally, the Dreamcast, a sleek white box of magic. It was the first 6th generation console, launching before the PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox. With a 200 MHz Hitachi processor and PowerVR graphics, it delivered 3D visuals that rivaled arcade machines, and for once, Sega was ahead of the curve. The Dreamcast wasn't just powerful, it was revolutionary. It came with a built-in modem in 1999 that was jaw-dropping for many. Online play, leaderboards, even browsing the web, all out of the box. While others were still focused on memory cards, the Dreamcast was already connecting gamers across the globe. Then there's the VMU, the Visual Memory Unit. It was a memory card with a screen. It could show health stats in games like Resident Evil, or could be used as a mini handheld device. The controller itself? Big, yes, but it introduced analog triggers years before anyone else. Paired with a huge arcade library, the Dreamcast had innovation coming from every angle. And of course, a game console has to deliver the best gaming library for success. The Dreamcast library might not be massive, with about 600 games, but it's packed with creativity. You had Sonic Adventure, a bold leap into 3D for Sega's mascot, Jet Set Radio, the first game to truly use cel shading with a killer soundtrack and anti-establishment attitude, which was a quite common theme back then. Shenmue, the most ambitious open-world game of its time, with day-night cycles, NPC schedules, and full voice acting way before GTA 3. Let's not forget about other games like Crazy Taxi, which is remembered by many as the most arcadey game. Resident Evil Code Veronica, a survival horror that was not only remembered for its scares, but also for its stunning graphics. Soul Calibur, Sega's way of responding to PlayStation's Tekken, and the first ever online console RPG, Phantasy Star. These weren't just good games, they were genre defining. Some of them still hold up today, better than you'd expect. So with all that going for it, what went wrong? First, the timing. The PlayStation 2 was announced shortly after the Dreamcast launched in North America, and Sony made one bold promise, a built-in DVD player. Suddenly, the PS2 wasn't just a game console, it was a full entertainment system. Meanwhile, Dreamcast stuck to CDs. That one decision changed everything. Then there was Sega's reputation. After the Sega CD, 32X, and the Sega Saturn, many gamers and retailers just didn't trust them anymore. Sega was seen as unstable, and when Sony promised backwards compatibility and a massive third-party lineup, people waited. Third-party support dried up for Sega. EA refused to publish games for Dreamcast. That meant no Need for Speed, no FIFA. Many promising titles were being made for the Dreamcast, like Half-Life and GTA 3. However, Valve found it impossible to make Half-Life on such a console, while Rockstar Games found the PS2 to be better alternative, leading to the cancellation of two promising titles. And financially, Sega simply couldn't keep burning money. By 2001, they pulled the plug. The Dreamcast was discontinued just 18 months after its North American release. The Dreamcast wasn't just a game console, it was a glimpse into the future, and that's exactly why it deserved more time, more attention, and more success. Before Xbox Live, before PSN, the Dreamcast brought online multiplayer to consoles with games like Phantasy Star Online and Quake 3 Arena. They shipped with a modem out of the box. That was unheard of in 1999. Sega was essentially laying the foundation for online console gaming as we know it today. And then there's the VMU, a memory card with a screen. It could show your health in Resident Evil and let you raise Chao from the Sonic Adventure. That kind of interactivity between hardware and software was genuinely ahead of its time. Nintendo will do similar things years later, but Sega did it first. The Dreamcast was a safe haven for bold game designs. Jet Set Radio gave us cel shading. Shenmue pushed storytelling and immersion to new heights. And Rez? Who would even come up with such a game? Like, look at it. They were unique. Dreamcast wasn't just chasing trends, it was setting them. This was the console where risk-taking was encouraged, where developers could go weird, go bold, and accidentally create cult classics that still resonate with gamers decades later. Ironically, what made the Dreamcast special is also what doomed it. It came too early. Sega was just too forward-thinking for a market that wasn't ready. In 1999, online gaming on consoles seemed niche. DVD playback seemed like a luxury, but consumers wanted it. Sega didn't include a DVD drive while the PlayStation did, and that became a major tipping point. People bought PS2s to watch movies, not just play video games. Sega misread that part of the market. But does that make the Dreamcast a failure in design? No. It just means it was too advanced for the context it was in. This wasn't just another console. It was Sega's final console, their last chance, and they gave it everything. Sega packed it with arcade power. They poured love into the launch titles. They didn't play it safe, they swung for the fences. And despite all that effort, market forces crushed it. Not because it was bad, but because it wasn't backed by the marketing muscle of Sony or the trust it once had. The Dreamcast deserved more because Sega finally got it right and still lost, ultimately forbidding Sega from ever making another game console. While Sega discontinued the Dreamcast decades ago, its fan base didn't die. Its spirit lives on in indie games and in modding communities. Even now, people are still developing for the Dreamcast. The homebrew scene is alive and well. Fans have created new shells, HDMI ports, rebuilt servers to keep online games playable. Same case for Daytona USA 2001, whose servers were back online in 2023. There's even a thriving collector's market. And creatively, many of today's gaming innovations can be tracked back to the Dreamcast. Online console gaming, experimental game designs, downloadable content. It was a console that dared to dream, and for a while it worked. The Dreamcast was a lightning in a bottle, ahead of its time, yet brought down by timing. A console that deserved more support, more time, more love. If you never got to play it, now's the time. Fire up that emulator, grab a used unit, or just watch classics online. Because the Dreamcast wasn't just a console, it was a vision. What's your favorite Dreamcast game? Mine was Sword of Berserk. You should check that out too. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.